بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. We continue reading from Imam Ghazali's Quran, the Jewels of the Quran. We have reached Surah Al-Alaq, the very last surah that Imam Ghazali selected verses from, jewels, that is, was Surah Al-Balad. So Imam Ghazali skipped some 5 chapters. These are very short. Of course, the importance of Surah Al-Alaq, that the very beginning of the surah, the first 5 verses, were the first revelation, and Imam Ghazali chose first 8 verses of this surah. Let us read and try to reflect on the beginning of the revelation and also the beginning of the surah. Of course, the surah reflects another aspect of the Qur'an, because it is number 9. The order of the surah in the Qur'an is number 96. So first revelation is in surah number 96. So the Qur'an is not arranged in chronological order. It is arranged the way the Prophet ﷺ ordered the companions to, the scribes amongst the companions to, his own companions to place them. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق، خلق الإنسان من علق، اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم القلم، علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم، كلا إن الإنسان ليطغى أن رآه استغنى إن إلى ربك الرجعى. These are the first 8 verses of the surah, and you can think about a night in the year 610. The Prophet ﷺ was in a cave on the outskirts of Medina. I'm sorry, on the outskirts of Mecca. So he would spend nights, الليالي ذوات العدد. He would spend some nights, days and nights, in this cave high in the mountains, meditating, pondering on the universe, knowing he was not doing what others were doing in Mecca. You can imagine that people, men like him, would be entertaining themselves, but no, the Prophet ﷺ would spend the nights there, and it was a time when he would spend time alone. He would return to Lady Sayyidah Khadija radiallahu anha. He will get some more food and water, would go back to this cave. And at one point, a revelation did take place. And it must have shocked the Prophet ﷺ, because he was surprised by the presence of Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salam right in front of his eyes. And he was telling him, Iqra, recite, proclaim, read. And the Prophet ﷺ would respond by saying that he cannot read. And this is very important, extremely important. This is the description of the Prophet ﷺ in Nabi al-Ummi, the illiterate prophet. Illiteracy is obviously something is lacking, and typically it's not honoring the person. Usually this is not the case, but in the case of Prophet Muhammad, this is really a very important state. The Prophet simply did not read and write, and the people around him, they knew this. So where did he come up with this? With the Quran, Subhanallah. We know it's revelation, but it's a challenge to the Meccans who know him, the Meccans who knew him really. At any rate, so the 3 times Jibreel salam would ask the Prophet to read, to recite, to iqra, and the Prophet would respond by saying Ma ana biqari, and the text ضمه would indicate that Jibreel salam would this ضم, if you will, this kind of a hug, but the Prophet was terrified really by the experience. At any rate, he still did receive revelation, and he did receive these 5 verses. When you ask what to read, recite in the name of your Lord, who created humans from a clinging clot, a theme that we have practically seen before in different forms, and Imam Ghazali chose the notion of creation as one jewel almost throughout the chapters that he selected. And read, iqra, and your Lord is the most generous, who taught by the pen, taught humanity what they knew not, taught the human being what he knew not. These are the first 5 verses. And talking about the experience, definitely the experience itself is so the Prophet ﷺ was not euphoric. The Prophet ﷺ was shaken by the experience. He went to Sayyid Khadija anha, his wife, who comforted him. She took him to her cousin Warqa bin Nawfal, who was well versed in the people of the book traditions, and she told Warqa bin Nawfal, her cousin, listen to your nephew. That's a form, that's a way of addressing older people, and usually it's the other way around. One of the companions who was asked about certain issues related to fasting, and obviously the companion of the Prophet ﷺ decided that this questioner was not really used to fasting, and he told him, يَا ابْنَ أَخِي إِنَّكَ لَمْ تَعْوَضْ صِيَامْ يَا ابْنَ أَخِي. So Khadija, she asked her cousin Warqa bin Nawfal, telling him to listen, لِبْنِ أَخِيكَ. And the Prophet ﷺ told him about his experience, and Warqa bin Nawfal told him that this is the Namus that was sent to Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam. And literally a Namus, the Namus. Okay. And he told him other things. One of them is that his people would drive him out of town, meaning they would send him kind of into exile. That if Warqa bin Nawfal himself would still be alive, he was old, he would support the Prophet ﷺ. So this is something that took place in the aftermath of the first experience. I'm also amazed by the reaction or the interpretation of this experience by a Jewish writer. Her name is Leslie Hazleton, who spoke about this particular experience, the first revelation. And though it might sound an oxymoron, but she said that she's an agnostic Jew, but she asked the audience at large to believe in the story of Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, stating that if there was nothing uh, except that particular experience as an indication of the truthfulness of Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, it should be enough, which is an amazing thing. If you one day end up visiting the Ghar Hira, you'll get a sense of the place and the experience. If you could see the tops of the mountains that are still barren, meaning they are not developed yet, no buildings, you could still see what the Prophet ﷺ saw from Ghar Hira. You could see that from the upper floors and in the many hotels that surround the Haram in the Noble Sanctuary in Mecca. So recite, and this is an amazing thing. Well, one should remember that revelation of the Qur'an, there are three levels, three stages of revelation. The first one is being revealed so that it could be preserved in the preserved tablet. That's all at once. The second revelation is from that the Quran was revealed to Bayt al-Izza in the lower heaven, all at once. So to the Lawh al-Mahfuz, all of it, to Bayt al-Izza, to Sama al-Dunya, that's all at once. And then it was revealed in the third stage to the Prophet ﷺ over 23 years, beginning with Iqra in the year 610. For the Muslims, for Islam, the first word that is revealed is recite, is Iqra. And there's reference to the story of creation, and that knowledge is transferred, that education that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught with the pen, teaching the human being what he, of course she, did not know. The human knowledge is either innate, just very few things. When you talk about innate knowledge, for most human beings, the overwhelming majority, it's the knowledge is acquired. There's a certain path for acquiring knowledge, but also there is revelation, there's inspiration, revelation in terms of wahy. That's it. Prophet Muhammad was the seal of the Prophet, is the seal of the prophets. There will be no more prophets until the day of judgment. Most certainly, كلا إن الإنسان يطغى, number 6. One exceeds all bounds. The human being exceeds bounds, transgresses crosses red lines. Why? الرآه استغنى. Once they think they are self-sufficient. But surely to your Lord is the return of all. To think that you are self-sufficient, you are very dependent. You are literally in a state of need all the time, needing air to breathe, needing food to sustain yourself, needing water to stay hydrated, without which you cannot last for long. But the human being is in a state of need, while thinking at times that he is self-sufficient. Number 9. Have you seen the man who prevents a servant from praying, servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? أرأيت الذي ينهى عبدا إذا صلى أرأيت إن كان على الهدى? What if this servant is rightly guided? And it's an amazing thing how this lady, Leslie Haslanot, she asked the audience after delivering that message, that lecture, speaking about the first experience of revelation. She asked the audience to believe, to abandon prejudice, extremism, etc. Subhanallah. There are Jews who believe that Prophet Muhammad was a prophet but sent to the Arabs, to the children of Ishmael, as if this is that it does not include the Israelites, if you will, as if this is something pertaining to the Ishmaelites. It's not in Islam. It's not about genealogy. It's all about faith, and you become chosen, if you will, if you are become special in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because of your belief, worship, and also doing good deeds. So what if the servant is rightly guided or encourages righteousness? How amara bit-taqwa? What if that man persists in denial and turns away? Does he not know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees him? أرأيت إن كذب وتولى ألم يعلم بأن الله يرى كلا لئن لم ينتهي لنسفعا بالناصية. Does he not see? Does he not know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees all? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows everything that takes place in the universe. This is one of the issues that Imam Al-Ghazali, when he responded to the philosophers, انتهى الفلاسفة, the 3 out of the 20 issues that he raised against the philosophers, 17 he declared them innovators in a negative sense, and on 3 accounts he rendered them non-believers. One of these 3 issues is they claim that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the universals but does not know the particulars. And we have ample evidence from the Qur'an, the Sunnah, to the contrary, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does know the particulars. It's a matter of faith too. But no, if he does not desist, we will certainly drag him by the forelock. This is something about Nasam bin Nasir. Here it is translated as drag him by the forelock. The Safa. This is about because a human being those who are destined to hellfire will be tossed, thrown on their faces, on their noses, and the forehead will be burnt. And this is the concept of lanasfa'an. So it's about the forehead being burnt, really, right at the very beginning of the punishment, because this frontal lobe is responsible for certain decisions, and this is why in verse 16 it is described as a lying, sinful forelock. This is a reference to the frontal lobe of the brain, where reasoning is processed, meaning that this is where the decision was made to believe or not to believe. So let him call his associates. فَلْيَدْعُ نَادِيَهُ سَنَدْعُ الزَّبَانِيَةَ. We will call the wardens of hell. Again, no, never obey him, meaning, O Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, كلا لا تطعه واسجد واقترب. Subhanallah, alhamdulillah, wa la ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar. Rather continue to prostrate and draw near to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In fact, this prostration is kept by Muslims by and large, while the biblical narrative does have references to men of faith, including prophets, falling on their faces, of course, in prostration. And the amazing thing is that as if this form of worship has been discontinued, and Muslims are the only ones who regularly prostrate themselves before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on daily basis. The theme of Iqra, as a final note, is you read the signs, you read the verses of the Qur'an, ayat, and also the signs in the universe are ayat. So one needs to recite the Qur'an itself, but at the same time, one is invited to recite, to decipher, to read the signs in the universe. The next reading, inshallah, will be from Surah Al-Ikhlas, which would also mean that Imam Al-Ghazali skipped many chapters, and thereafter we'll go to the next section of the jewels of the Quran. So Jawahir at the first section, and Durar in the second, jewels in the first section, and pearls in the second section. So until the next reading, Surah Al-Ikhlas. Subhanakallah wa hamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.